before I put anything in there?
Hello everybody, today I'm going to be reading from Inside Out, pages 17 to 17 to 25. I hope you enjoy. At that moment, I noticed that the core memory holder was open and Sadness was right next to it. Sadness, I shouted, what are you doing? It looks like one was crooked, Sadness said, so I opened it and it fell out. I put the core memory back in place. Goofball Island whirled to life. Thank goodness. I looked up at the screen and saw Riley had jumped onto the railing and was sliding down. Then Sadness reached out again for one of the core memories. It started to turn blue. Whoa, 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 I said, grabbing her hand. Sadness, you nearly touched a core memory, and when you touch them, we can't change them back. Sadness apologized and said she didn't know what had gotten into her, but obviously she was a disaster waiting to happen. That wasn't a bad thing. It was just something that needed to be handled, so I handled it. I gave her some mind manuals to read. Who doesn't love mind manuals? With titles like Long-Term Memory Reveal, Volume 47. You just know they have to be fascinating. Okay, maybe not fascinating, but they gave Sadness something to do. Plus, that corner with the mind manual shelves is far away from the memories. I have to keep them safe. So that took care of Sadness for the moment. But by bedtime, she wasn't the only one having trouble. The move had been really hard on everyone, and even though I reminded them we'd been through worse, they didn't see it. Disgust couldn't get over the weird pizza. Fear was still freaking out about the missing moving van, and Sadness piped up that all of Riley's friends were far away and we'd never see them again. Anger was so upset he wanted to shout that one curse word we knew. I was really struggling to keep them together. But then Mom came in to kiss Riley goodnight. And you know what he did? She thanked Riley. Mom was so proud of Riley for being joyful through the difficult move. She said, "You stayed our happy girl. Your dad's under a lot of pressure, but if we can keep smiling, it will be a big help. We can do that for him, right?" At that moment, I couldn't have been more proud. We had a higher purpose now. We needed to support Dad. Of course we could do that. I stepped up to the console and began driving. Riley told Mom she'd definitely keep smiling. What did we do to deserve you?" said Mom, and then she gave Riley a kiss goodnight. The other emotions agreed that Mom was right, and I was satisfied that we were all on the same page again. Team happy. After that, we were all tired. Sadness, anger, disgust, and fear went to sleep. But I had dream duty, which meant I took the night shift. I sent the day's memories down to long-term for storage, then settled in to watch the show that Dream Productions had put together. It played on the big screen, the same one where we watched Riley's memories. I'm a big fan of Dream Productions. They come up with great shows, super original, real cutting-edge, comedy, crazy action sequences. I have a whole list of favorites I call up from time to time. But that night was not one of their best. In fact, it was a nightmare about the new house, which was not okay at all. It was the last thing Riley needed after her day. So even though I'm not supposed to mess with dreams, I made an executive decision. I pulled the plug on the dream and called up a memory for Riley and me to watch. While I slept, it was one of my favorites. The time when Riley showed off her skating moves to Mom and Dad. She did twirls and jumps and she was brilliant. And Mom and Dad were so proud, they smiled as they watched her. Riley was so happy she couldn't stop laughing. I watched the memory all night long. I even skated with her, gliding in time with little Riley around her headquarters, like it was a race. "Don't you worry," I told her. "I'm going to make sure that tomorrow is another great day. I promise." And I meant that promise too. The next day was the first day of school, and I had huge plans for how to make it the best day ever. And what better way to start the best day ever than with an accordion serenade. I have to say, I'm quite fabulous on the accordion. I don't play it so much as I hug it. The melodious sound of my accordion make my fellow emotions jump to their feet and emerge from the break room. Okay, first day of school, I cheered. Very, very exciting. Very, very exciting. I was up late last night figuring out a plan. Fear needed a list of all the possible negative outcomes on the first day at a new school. Way ahead of you there, Fear said, writing on a notepad. Does anyone know how to spell meter? Disgust said, make sure Riley stands out today, but also blends in. When I'm through, Riley will look so good, the other kids will look at their own outfits and barf. Disgust assured me. I told Anger to unload the train of thought which had just arrived at headquarters. It's an actual train that goes around the giant landscape of Riley's mind, delivering daydreams, facts, opinions, light bulb ideas, and memories. At the moment, it was delivering extra daydreams. I'd ordered them in case things got slow in class. Sadness, I then, with excitement in my own voice, I have a super important job just for you. I led her to a spot in the back of headquarters and drew a chalk circle on the floor around her feet. This is the circle of sadness, I said. Your job is to make sure that all the sadness stays inside of it. She wasn't thrilled with the idea, but then again, is she ever thrilled about anything? I knew it was a great plan. As for me, I tasked myself with driving the console and making sure Riley stays happy all day long. All right, everyone, I cried to my fellow emotions. Fresh start. We are going to have a good day, which will turn into a good week, which will turn into a good year, which will turn into a good life. Yep, I had everything in place. By the time this day was over, I was positive Riley would have people clamoring to be her best friend. She'd probably get 30 party invitations. 40, maybe. The others weren't quite as sure as I was, especially when Riley's teacher made her stand up and introduce herself. Not a problem. I worked on the console and Riley stood up and smiled. My name is Riley Anderson, she said. I'm from Minnesota and now I live here. Good. Charming. The other kids were loving her already. Then the teacher asked for more information. She wanted to know about the weather. I knew Riley would have no problem with that one. She smiled and said, yeah, it's getting pretty cold. The lake freezes over and that's when we play hockey. As Riley told everyone about playing hockey with her best friend Meg, I helped her out. I called up a memory of the whole family skating together, and they played it on the big screen. It was so beautiful I couldn't stop grinning. It's kind of a family tradition, Riley continued. We go out on the lake almost every weekend. Then suddenly the screen in headquarters turned blue. Or we did, until we moved away. Riley said, wait, that shouldn't be happening on the screen. The screen shouldn't be blue. Riley shouldn't be sad. This was a happy memory. I spun around to see the projector. There was Sadness with her hands on the memory sphere. Sadness, I snapped, you touched the memory. We talked about this. Oh yeah, I know. Sadness said, I'm sorry, unbelievable. I sent her back to the circle of sadness and frantically pushed some buttons on the console to get the sad memory out of the projector, but it wouldn't budge. And the longer it sat there, the more upset Riley got. Soon she wasn't even speaking, but she was still standing in front of the whole class about to cry. And as Disgust so helpfully pointed out, all the cool kids were whispering, "Get it out of there, Joyce," Fear wailed. He was right. I had to get the memory out of the projector, even if I had to do it by hand. I yanked and tugged, but it was stuck tight. Somebody help me, I said, and fear, anger, and disgust grabbed hold of the sphere too. At least we had Fear at first. He gave up and ran around in a panic when Riley got so sad she started to sob. I looked up at the console and realized why Sadness was driving the console. That was even worse than her touching the memory. With Sadness at the controls, there was no possible way Riley could recover from this. I had to get Sadness off the console immediately. With a mighty tug, I finally yanked the blue memory out of the projector. Then ran to Sadness and pulled her away. But it was too late. With a ping, a blue memory sphere rolled into headquarters. Everyone stopped and stared. It's a core memory, Fear said. But it's blue, Disgust gasped. They were both right. The memory was blue and it rolled right toward the core memory holder. This was unacceptable. Riley could not have a sad core memory. She couldn't. It would change who Riley was Ultimately, I longed for the button to pop up on the core memory holder. With the holder raised, I knew the memory holders would. I knew with the holder side. With the holders raised, I knew the memory holder side couldn't go in. Couldn't go in. Success. Now all I had to do was get the horrible core memory as far away from the core memory holder as possible. I pressed another button and lowered a vacuum tube from the ceiling. The same vacuum that sends Riley's daily memories to long-term for storage. I knew the memory wouldn't cause Riley any trouble down there. But before I could get the memory sphere in the vacuum, Sadness tried to grab the memory away. I couldn't believe it. She actually wanted to keep the blue core memory. I held up the sphere tight, but so did Sadness. Surprisingly, she has a heck of a grip. I struggled to get the sphere away from her, but before I could, we bumped into the core memory holder. All 5 memories spilled out. I think I stopped breathing. Ah! We'll discuss fear and anger.
Relationships at work. That is so true. Okay. Okay. Let me tell you what we're looking for. Sorry, my meeting ran late.
Through the window, we saw all the islands of personnel in the dark. This was the biggest disaster ever. I stopped fighting Sadness for the blue memory sphere, and I scrambled to gather all 5 of the core memories. Sadness held on to the blue one. She wanted to put it inside the core memory holder, but I wouldn't let her. I lunged at the blue memory, and it slipped out of Sadness's hand. I almost cried with relief as it got stuck up in the vacuum tube to long-term memory. But then suddenly I slipped, dropped the yellow core memories. One of them rolled toward the vacuum tube. No, I shouted, leaped to save it, and got pulled into the vacuum tube myself, along with all 5 yellow core memories. The tube whooshed me straight up out of headquarters, and the core memories were zipping along with me. I managed to coil them together, but it wasn't easy. The fierce suction of the vacuum threatened to tear them away, but I kept them as close as I could. As I rocketed through the tube, everything around me was a blur. I couldn't tell if I was going up or down. I didn't know where I'd land. And then suddenly, blam, I landed in a large cart of memory spheres. I could not feel the spheres pushing it into my back. Then I heard a scream. It was Sadness. I guess she'd been sucked up by the vacuum tube, and now she was falling toward me. Bump, I ignored her. I began frantically digging through the memory spheres that we were sitting on top of. I lost track of the core memories when I fell. I needed to get them back to headquarters. If Riley lost the core memories, the island of personality would be stopped forever. And then where would she be? More important, who would she be? 1, 2, 3. Okay, got him, I said, as I balanced the 5 memories in my arms.
There's a Starbucks app.
Well, it was really nice meeting you, Alan.
Yeah, next time bring some of your illustrations. I'll let you pick
Cool
my
background.
Okay, everybody, that was Inside Out Part 2.
Okay.
I hope you liked it. Bye.
It wasn't a love connection.
Oh my god, you failed.
I think you and I might be going together. I'll just cut it out.
Jumpy line misses you.
Have a great day.